You are listening to Radio Belvaspata, South Africa. This show is dedicated to those who live and love from the heart in infinite ways. In today's episode, we will discuss, share, gain insights, and get clarity on the wisdom and teachings of the mystic and seer Almin, as well as discover more about the miraculous healing modality called Belvaspata. Your host for this show is Paul.
Hello everyone, welcome to Radio Belvaspata, South Africa, broadcasting live east of Johannesburg on Thursday the 31st of August 2017. You need to know that in case you are living in linear time, but if we are living in a time of expansion, then things would be different. But we're going to talk a little bit about that later on. There's a beautiful healer called Katrina Kennison who says that meaning and purpose come not from accomplishing great things in the world, but simply from loving those who are right in front of you. Doing all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place where you are. Absolutely beautiful, and I think so practical in order to just understand what is important and focus on that for ourselves as life changes and emerges differently day by day for all of us. So we are here on radio today. We're discussing how to live in limitlessness. We're going to talk about how the need for identity seems to be very, very strong and how it's pushing boundaries. And we're going to combine all of those particular processes together. We've got audio from the incredible mystic and seer Almin. We've got some humor time as well coming up. We've got a Mozart concerto. We're going to be listening to Perspectives of Hope. And so many different things are in this 1 hour show. Welcome to it. Thank you for spending the time with us. If you are listening live, thank you very much. If you are listening as a podcast, great, relax with us. We like to have you on board. And of course, please, we welcome all your comments. We welcome you to the show and just to be part of this special time of togetherness. It is now just after 8 o'clock South African Standard Time, broadcasting live around the world. And recently, with the recent eclipse in the Northern Hemisphere on the 21st of August has evoked huge response and reactions worldwide. Well, someone was very, very fortunate to be able to be on board the ship Oasis during that recent eclipse, and they went straight over into the path of the eclipse. And that was the singer Bonnie Tyler. I bet you can't guess what song we're about to play.
Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit lonely and you're never coming round. Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit tired of listening to the sound of my tears. Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit nervous. The best of all the years have gone by. Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit terrified. Then I see the look in your eyes. But every now and then I fall apart. There's nothing I can do, a total eclipse of the heart. 'Cause 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 Once upon a time there was light in my life. Now there's only love in the door. Nothing I can say, a total eclipse of the heart. Total eclipse of the heart. Every now and then I'm falling for. Every now and then I'm falling for. I need you now tonight. I need you more than ever. If you only hold me tight, you'll be holding on forever. Only be making it right. 'Cause we left me wrong together. Take it to the end of the night. Life is like a shadow all the time. I don't know what to do. Always in the dark, living in a power that they're giving up spark. I really need you tonight. Forever's gonna start tonight. Forever's gonna start. Once upon a time I was falling in love. Now I'm only falling apart. And there's nothing I can do. A total eclipse of the heart. A total eclipse of the heart. A total eclipse of the heart. Turn around, bright eyes. Turn around. Thank you. Cheers.
We're back in studio, Radio Bell Hospital, South Africa's episode about living in limitlessness. There we were listening to the superstar Bonnie Tyler as she sang her song Total Eclipse of the Heart from aboard the beautiful cruise ship Oasis during the recent eclipse just 2 weeks back. Fantastic to know that somebody of that talent and ability is still continuing with her career, but that remains for me one of her original and best, most beautiful songs. And how appropriate for where we are at, because do you feel that your heart is at times being eclipsed? I mean, it's a bit of a cliche to say all of this, really. We don't have to go into the questions. I'm sure everybody got the meaning beyond understanding why we were playing that particular song. But yeah, let's remember that nothing is permanent in our lives. Everything is shifting and changing. And when we try hold on to things, in terms of trying to create a predictability, we are going to be getting a big, big surprise. For me, myself, for Nico, for many of the team members around Team Bell Hospital here in South Africa, fascinating insights as to what is going on as we really try to get to grips and to understand the shifts that are and things that are changing during this eclipse time. But it's a phase of learning, I think, to live in the magic of the white light. This year Almin delivered so much information really on that webinar of the 20th of August. But really, how are you feeling post-eclipse? I mean, these energies have been taxing. Our light quotient, of course, is upping more and more as we're going along. Our physical body integrates this light. As this upgrade takes place, we can be extremely fatigued, dizzy, experiencing a deep emotional purging that is going on. The light body, we must remember, expels all that is not in resonance with it. And that energy can be from this life, from our past lives, from lives lived prior to being on this planet, and even collective soul group energies. If it is anything other than hope, trust, acceptance, and love, then it's got to go. Have you noticed how when you feel your trust or your hope has been dashed for any particular period, have you felt what happens within the heart? Really, such heaviness goes on there, and then you have to work very, very hard to get rid of it. But the Seer Almin did tell us 2 weeks ago that all of this will not just be handed to us on a silver platter. She says we're going to need to work really hard to get through this particular process. And obviously, the harder the work it is, the more it's worth attaining from wherever we are going. I'm seeing that the energy and experiences in people, many people, that they seem to be trying to push their own identity outwards, and then growing their own boundaries and pushing the boundaries as they're going along in order to maintain that particular identity. It's as if for them only the I seems to exist. There's only me in this world, and that's it. We look at the roads, we look at the conditions, we look at attitudes, we look at people's responses. Nobody can look each other in the eye by the look of things at this moment in time. It seems like they are wanting to be in the center of their own storm. And I'm seeing a lot of catch-22 situations developing where there's a paradox. You cannot really assume anything at any one point is right or the truth. It's just the way it is, and you've got to just keep and working on it. But people seem to be trying to define themselves by their identity. And, the subtitle or theme of tonight's show, which we're saying is living in limitlessness, is really non-identity. Because the more we hold on and try to create that identity, it creates a sense of predictability, and that creates a sense of assumption as we're going along. But with this purging process, some of us have been encountering deep sadness, anger, fear, bubbling up to the surface of our lives. And these emotions that have remained buried in our body under layer upon layer of past life experiences seem to be coming up. Sometimes, some days we're extremely clear. The next day we're extremely heavy. I was speaking to a friend of mine earlier this week, and she was saying that she's got so much brain fog. That's it. And I posted on our local group, the Teams group, that brain fog seems to be the new way. And she was saying to me that she wants to buy sunglasses that have got these side blinkers on, because the only way she can actually really focus on something is to take her hands around the corners of her face and block out her ability to see to the left and right, that she can only see forward at any one particular time. She says then the dizziness stops, then the processes stop, and she's able to focus a lot more. But it really has been a very strong energetic event, this eclipse. And in order for us to close the door and release from within all of us everything that we no longer need, that's all seems to be releasing. And I think that's very, very fear-bringing to many, many people. In fact, if we look at the Almin rune prediction of the week, she says that this can invoke states of fear in many, many people. So I'm really grateful that she's printed that for us and posted that, because at least when we are forearmed and forewarned to it, we can understand it on a much deeper level. But I think this last 2 weeks has been one of deep, deep reaction amongst mankind. And for those beings who are trying to look beyond it all, we have so much work to do within ourselves. I think, just for our South African group, there's also another word coming up. And I'm going to just say it in Afrikaans, so perhaps our people in Holland will also understand it. I'm not going to use the full word because it's not polite. But, in Afrikaans, it begin met 'n gee and ends with a fall. So we are really full of just had enough of so many different things. But I do think that's a very important process for us all to begin to work with, because when you've literally had enough, when you've reached rock bottom, you're going to stand up and look at things in a different way. If the old has not worked for you, then it is time to move on. And I think one of the deepest understandings that we need to create in terms of respecting our own journey for ourselves is to understand that the old no longer exists, except perhaps within a memory cell or within the physical cell structures, but that is certainly gone. So we are certainly integrating these eclipse energies. We're upgrading. There's many symptoms. There's many forms of release that is going on. I just said to Nico a few minutes ago, I think it's very important for us to actually just go and sit and just do some clearing for ourselves. We live and work in a building that has got a huge amount of people and energy and traffic coming through it, extremely busy all the time. And although, the home is separate from the business area, we also have to be accountable and be responsible for ourselves in these particular time frames that are going on. After all, we are walking a path that we have chosen to walk, that others may not have chosen, and that doesn't make anybody better or worse. It just simply says that we have roles to play. So some people are experiencing much more of a physical release, but things like changing jobs, living situations, relationships, practices around health are all changing. And the Seer Almin has been speaking also about the need to start to define one's own health practices for one's body and one's state of health. So whatever the eclipse is bringing up for you, know that what you are feeling is temporary. And it is only a reflection of that which our ego self or our identity self has kept locked away from us. The more we find out about the hidden inventory of our own identity or ego, the better equipped we will be to move forward in our lives with confidence and joy and be able to bring those deep eternal qualities of love and trust and acceptance and hope. Those beautiful aspects of love, gratitude and trust. Very, very important for us to work and bring out at this moment in time. Have you noticed that there's a sense of being cynical about things as well? And if we're not careful, that begins to rule the way that we behave and that we look at things. So remember that our ego or identity can also be our friend or our worst nightmare. In a little while, we're going to listen to Almin talk about the gift of duality and what it brings for us. So when we see everything in perfection, absolutely incredible, we see the bigger picture. But as soon as we get into identity, the emotions take over and blah, 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 trapped in a perspective. And I'm aware of that within myself. We've got to think of this as a well-meaning friend trying to teach us something. We may not always get the best advice from that friend, but often, if we look into the words and phrases that are used, then we can gain inspiration about how we are attempting to make those shifts and changes. The ego or identity self is much the same as that friend and will tend to give advice and guidance to you based on either a proactive avoidance of situations or a reactive explosion to them. Seeing that going on a lot, people avoiding looking at issues along the way or actually just exploding when they have to try and deal with something. But very, very, very tough times for many people on an emotional level. So these past life patterns that we are now working with and clearing away have, of course, proactive and reactive expressions, how we should be handling different situations. The programming of old is coming up through us for us to look at and to begin to work with. So extreme exhaustion for many, many people, extreme fatigue and tiredness, and many health conditions as all of these things start to transit and come to the surface of being, or shall I say realization. And as long as we're not in realization, of course, what we're going to do is continue to experience all of that. We know that we have vast reserves of past life energy, and our quest to avoid repeating the trauma of the past will influence us, and the fear and anger will always come out as a warning sign that we are venturing dangerously close to past life trauma, or that we have not brought it out and healed it. The thing is, we should be truly avoiding repeating our past life traumas, but we must also respect the energy and the lessons that they bring. And I think one aspect of what we need to really look at is this aspect of self-responsibility that needs to be taken for the self. Very, very aware of that for myself as we go through each particular week, and incredibly challenging moments and times, completely overwhelmed on so many levels. But again, we do make these choices, do we not? So we're bringing everything to the surface. It's all challenging. Fear, trauma is all up there. How we see it and a perspective that we place around it is something that we need to look at for ourselves. We just have to get into it in order to get out of it. Absolutely incredible. So now is the time to heal the past. It's the time to invest time and energy in ourselves. It's time to explore all the hidden details of who we truly are at this point. There is no time like the present, and the more we actively participate in this healing and release it, the better able we will be, the more able we will be able to gently pass through these energetics that have been brought up by the eclipse. If you choose to ignore this process or subconsciously decide that you do not wish to help yourself, you're in for a much longer, harder ride. The choice is yours. So are you willing to do what it takes to clear out the emotional residue, or will you just wait for another time when things are better, or you feel right? If you wait on that, the ego will have you forever fooled and trapped in the perspective of the past, and you will not be able to see the power and beauty of this particular moment. So let's take care of all of that. But now we have a short audio. It is actually a bit of humor that we are bringing into the show. For me, my sense of humor, absolutely funny. But one young girl has decided that she's had enough, and she's found a way to stop learning and to stop the education process. But it's what she doesn't say that I find very, very entertaining. And if we look at the subtle reasons why she doesn't want to be any longer in the school, as we listen to all of this, and she makes no bones about trying to literally blow up the school. Please remember, we are not saying this is the right way. We're just playing a bit of humor, and let's enjoy just a sense of lightness for a few minutes.
Hello, Intercore.
Hi, is that the demolition place?
It is, yeah.
Could you help me to destroy my school, please?
Just bear with me a second. Hello.
Hi,
Oh, but what school do you go to?
I go to a school in Dublin.
And you want it demolished?
Yeah. Do you use a big wrecking ball, or
We
how
have-
do you knock it down?
A big ball. Well,
Right.
Well, hold on 1 wee second, please.
Hello?
How are you? My name's Becky.
Yes,
I have a proposal for you.
go ahead.
Are you the demolition man?
Yes,
You're the top boss, yeah?
go ahead. What's the crack? Hello?
I want you to help me destroy my school.
You want it blown up?
Can you blow it up or knock it down?
Whatever you want done.
I'll blow it up, that would be better. Can you make sure that all my teachers are in there when you knock it down?
I don't know if I get away with that now.
I will, nobody likes them. They give me extra homework on a Friday and everything.
Where are you calling from?
From Dublin.
What school in Dublin?
The one that's about to fall down.
There's a lot of schools in Dublin about to fall down.
And how much would it cost to knock it to the ground?
It depends how big it is.
Give me a ballpark figure.
He's not there. Give me a ballpark figure. Oh, Jesus. Where's that, hey?
Is this a demolition company or a joke factory?
It's a joke factory at the minute, hey. It's a joke factory.
Listen, are you going to come and knock my school down or what?
I will, Shirley. Can you fax me through a photograph or a site plan or something?
Right, I'll fax you through a plan of the school and my teachers' names.
Yeah, no problem, yeah.
And you just make sure that they're all in the building when you knock it down.
You put all their names on it. I'll give you a price for each individual teacher.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
When the school falls down, will it make a crash or a wallop?
When they say hey in Belfast, it'll make a big bang.
Sounds good. Oh, listen, I'll talk to you later, top man.
Sound. Good luck, hey. You look after yourself.
Fill your boots, man.
Right? Good luck.
See you after.
And there is a bit of humor. We had Becky from Dublin wanting to knock her entire school down, remove her teachers from the face of the planet, and she doesn't want to do the homework. Doesn't that describe a lot of where we're at in terms of resistance to many different things? And I suppose Becky has a plan, and I wonder if that's plan A or plan B, but there she is explaining about the plan. A bit of humor on the radio there, I think, in somewhere in Ireland. So Richard Rudd, who wrote in the 27th Gene Key all about altruism as seen and reflected in the pod mind, which are really invisible psychic forces that unite creatures and keeps them together. He's talking about dolphins and similar creatures, and he says the pod mind monitors the safety of the pod as a whole. It functions through each individual dolphin, but is instantly communicated to all members of the pod. The nature of this pod mind is altruism, in the sense that if an individual member in the pod is in danger, all dolphins will then turn to assist it. At a higher frequency, the communal altruism that exists between family group extends to the species as a whole. In humans, altruism ensures our survival as a species, and I suppose we could say in there or not. It ensures a happier, healthier life, even though it may not always be the life you were expecting. And giving from the heart can stir up unexpected cosmic forces that work in our favor. To give to others simply for the sake of giving activates healthy currents deep within our body. And Almin teaches to give so that we may get. And I think that explains that aspect of altruism very, very beautifully. Through selfishness, we may acquire much for ourselves, but we would not acquire a true sense of higher purpose. Purpose flows from altruism like water from a spring. It bubbles up inside us, making us feel warm, as well as spreading this feeling to others. I think there's a complete process of understanding this gift of giving on a cosmic level in terms of one's own work, and then also perhaps emptying one's pockets, but that's my own perspective at this moment. To give to others simply for the sake of giving activates healthy currents deep within our body. Sure, always great to give to somebody just out of no need. Another aspect of altruism, though, is its ability to be detached. And that's what I would like to bring into the show tonight, this aspect of, altruism and detachment. It gives without expectation, as well as giving to causes that it knows will be fertile. And Nick and I have been discussing a huge amount of processes. And one of the things that we've been working on this week, and the decisions and choices we're making, is to only work with those that would bring benefit to everyone on a mutual benefit. And nothing is lower, nothing is higher. Everything is all combined in these new processes and platforms that we're working with. And very, very interesting insights coming from all of that. So it's created a process where no one needs to be the boss. No one needs to dictate who is what in this whole process of these different platforms that we are now manifesting within our arts and entertainment industry here. But everybody's a leader in their own way and brings a speciality in terms of their personality, either as a lesson or as a gift. And those are both incredible to look at, because the Seer Almin does say to us is that, ultimately everything is a blessing. Even though if you're ready to learn a lesson and ready to apply it, then it is a gift, because then you have transcended something. So ultimately everything is a blessing, even though you may be experiencing lessons. Altruism is a form of intelligence that knows through its vital connection to the group mind what is worth giving to whom. It does not feed victim consciousness. Essentially, it supports the empowerment of individuals through a process of deep communal bonding. So let's look at an alternative aspect of all of this with some audio from the Seer Almin. She's going to talk a little bit about, the inner cause that manifests externally as the bankers control our governments and our world. And again, I don't want you to come into what is right or wrong, what is, up and above or so and below, what is, good or bad. But there has to be another aspect of altruism in terms of when this perspective is not all encompassing, not of mutual benefit. And I find this conversation that Almin gives to us fascinating in terms of understanding what it is that you and I would need to do within ourselves in terms of being truly altruistic. Is that the correct word to use? Filled with natural altruism, and not feeding a group mind, but actually feeding with, from, and to, and along with everything that happens on an expanded state cosmically. Let's listen to Almin.
I have been asked about a specific comment that I believe I've made once or twice over the years, and that is that I traced the ages of control. Exactly what controlled man's actions, man's society, man's governments over the ages. And we traced how we went through the age of religious tyranny, when churches controlled it, and spiritual leaders basically were the power behind the throne of government. We also looked at the age of tyrants, when tyrants and conquerors were the moving force behind humanity's society. We then said, and actually the order is, at first was the tyrants, then came the religions, and then I said that after that came the bankers, and that we were still in the age of control of bankers. And I've been asked to elaborate on this. My beloved brothers and sisters, you have no idea to which extent bankers control the world. For instance, they bankrupt countries. Officially, since the Great Depression, America is bankrupt. But of course it was bailed out by the world banks. And so the banks basically own it. They do this all the time with countries to bankrupt them, such as Greece, and then they end up owning them. They have designs, for instance, on doing the same to Italy. And third world countries are owned by larger countries who do the exact same thing that is being done to them. They bankrupt a country and then they loan it money and then they basically own it. They get the taxpayers' money. It's a source of revenue for them. So the bankers definitely own so much of the world we cannot believe it. And this was necessary for them to make countries go off the gold standard to be able to get their full control. When money thrives, bankers are behind it. When it falls, bankers are behind it. All of it is just to get more and more power, control, and money. So that is where we are. So the point is, what, as the true force of governing the earth, the sacred government of the holy ones, can we do through self-government to break this incredible tyranny that has caused such immense hardship to people of many different countries? We have to find what within us still manages to control us from the outside, from our external life. And you will find that in your life, people can still push buttons, as they say. In other words, they can still get you upset, they can still get you hurt, they can still get you irritated, they can get you depressed, they can get you sad, they can get you feeling good about yourself, and they can get you feeling bad about yourself. All these is to give permission in a disempowering way to others to affect your life. You're the puppet and they pull the strings. It is particularly so when there is somebody in your life that is in constant conflict with you. Conflict requires two people, and you need to clearly evaluate the roles you play and learn your lessons, learn what to accept and what to walk away from, and do so. But these are your tools to hone your self-empowered mastery. We cannot permit others to pull our strings to this effect.
And there we were listening to the mystic and Seer Almeen in a recent post up on Almeen Diary as she talks about, empowering ourselves through a sense of self-government and self-responsibility and bringing up details of what triggers us. Absolutely incredible and up-to-the-moment perspectives there. I was just writing down there, the need to control outcomes is something for me that is still valid there. And having a discussion with a friend of mine today just over those processes where, we need to be present and to do something, that kind of thing. all this trust, this acceptance, living in a sense of appreciation and allowing everything to unfold as it must. Really, really big work to going on. But there we go, self-government and self-responsibility. And I said to you earlier that we will be talking a little bit about that in a few minutes. But let's just look a little bit first about a new post that has come up on Almin Diary. It has just been posted today, and it's about my journey in creating your alchemical healing oils, where the seer discusses and chronicles her journey in creating the alchemical healing oils. Apparently, it is a very, very intense workload that she's experiencing. So people don't feel alone. There, she's also doing that. We're all doing that at this moment by the look of things. And the question has been, arising from Almin's message here. And she's asked, in what way does time move to be able to flow in a centripetal movement back to us? You remember about 2-3 weeks ago, we were thinking that it's a wrinkle in time. Well, this kind of answers some of that particular thing there. Almin says that in the book, Journey to the Heart of God, she describes the movements of awareness particles. And this is also the movement of time. Time is the movement of awareness. All the stages of evolution, right from identity consciousness to the resurrection stages, takes place within the cosmic framework of a massive rotating tube torus. Number 1, identity consciousness is in linear time. It's the outward movement from the center through the diameter to the edge of the tube torus. The contribution of this is that it can, through expanded consciousness, expand the size of the tube torus, prolonging the time periods of the cycles of life. And this takes place obviously during physical life. And secondly, during the time of what we call death, this movement of time rotates, causing the spinning movement of the cosmos. The gift of this is that it creates a self-generating energy source, self-maintaining as well. During ascension, the movement of time arcs, causing the outward and inward movement away and towards the center point. This creates karma, as well as ascending and simultaneously descending movements of light and frequency. And that's the source of polarity. So we look at polarity mixed with time and this aspect of awareness, and we come into, a depth of living in different dualities. At the level of the immaculate white light, this framework as the cosmic model is transcended. So then there's discussion in this particular post about healing oils that Almin had to recall from the post office and had to redo. And she said that the following prayer message had to be imprinted into these oils. And it's so beautiful. It says, I'm going to start that again. O thou great light that fills all the cosmos, I know that I am thee. My body is a light source, eternally shining amongst men. Shadows dissolve in the luminosity of my presence. And that's so powerful and beautiful. Almin says that such knowledge, as she's explained to us, is far above the understanding of any angelic being. So think about that programming that you might have at this particular time. Almin also goes into explaining about all sorts of groups, and the question given to her, how can I know which of the 3 groups, each with a different type of healing that you've mentioned, is better for me? Can you explain the advantage of taking some self-responsibility if you're healing us anyway? Almin says, it's like asking which foot is more important when you walk. The universe is sorting the healing request into groups, not you or I. The infinite has a greater design with these healings than we can see from our limited perspective. Its importance is indicated by how carefully the details have to be correct. And she just explains there that she had to redo a whole group of orders of her oils because there were details missing or incorrect or needed to be added to before she sent them out. She says that the groups she has mentioned have different archetypal functions. They each are a proxy for a specific group respectively. It's the living, the souls in the realm of death, and the ascended ones. Then she talks about self-responsibility does the following, and this is what I want you to highlight for us during tonight's show. Self-responsibility does the following. Number 1, it signals the universe that you're receptive to the healing and willing to put some effort behind it. Think about that for yourself. Number 2, Systemic ailments have often taken years of poor choices to get to such a deteriorated state. It is often necessary to change your lifestyle to support the health change. Number 3, the healing of many diseases has to be done bit by bit to avoid very major discomfort and systemic overwhelm if the excretory pathways are compromised. Your cooperation with this gradual process really helps. So start studying some more about the aspects of Belvaspatar healing and begin to work with all of that. Okay, so we're going to try and work with an audio now, but I think we have a technical issue. The computer is sticking. According to Nico, he's giving me a note from outside there, and he says that he cannot continue at this particular point. So we are not able to actually continue with the show. My apologies for all of that, but the moment we press reset, we are going to lose the show, and it should auto-publish. But I think we've been cut short, 40 minutes into the show. It is what it is. Next week, we'll try and play more aspects of talking about auto-tuning, starting to work with all of that. What I'm going to do actually is, instead of playing audio, I'm going to just see if we can continue with the oral part of the show and that information, and then we will log out as we go. But if we lose you in the meantime, it's just simply a technical issue. We don't know why. It is just something that is blocking us right now. The healer Matt Licata tells us that as long as we remain tangled in the trace of unworthiness, we will inevitably postpone fully being here. And we will continue to place the burden of our unlived life on those around us. He says to look carefully and see how the orphaned pieces of our body, of our heart, and of our nervous system continue to appear as our partners, of our family, our children, our friends, and even as the colors in an erupting summer sunset. As you slow down and turn back into the aliveness within you, the invitation is to dare to see that you were never unhealed, that nothing is missing, and that by infusing your immediate experience with presence, with warmth and with kindness, that you can reauthor the story. You can go back into the surging feelings, into the emotions and sensations that the old narrative has safeguarded you from, and see finally once and for all if you still need to be protected from the raw, naked activity of life, of love, and what it truly means to be a sensitive, vulnerable, awake human being. Not after you clean up your past, not after you feel safe all the time, not after you heal all your wounds, not after you find your soulmate, not even after you manifest great things, even not after you replace the hopelessness with hope, and not after you find answers to all your questions, but now. Honor the role that the dream characters have played in your life until now, the unlovable one, the unworthy one, the broken one, and the failed one. You need not go to war with these ones. You need not send them away or practice aggression towards them, to heal them or let them go. For they will let go of you when they are no longer needed to protect you from the aliveness of your own heart. To let in the implications of this is utterly exhilarating and completely terrifying simultaneously. One world is ending so that the true world may appear from behind the clouds of separation. So yes, we definitely have a technical issue. Everything is completely jammed. We are still broadcasting until such point as we hit reset, and we'll have to switch this computer on and off. So we're going to have a look at that in this week ahead. But I'd like to just finish the show because we cannot play any further audios or anything like that. But I'd just like to say thank you for spending the time with us for this 45 minutes that we had. It's what we get tonight. Nothing more we can do about it all. Just to let you know, if you don't know already, that the founder, Louise Hay, the healer, Louise Hay, transitioned yesterday morning of natural causes at just over the age of 90, passing peacefully surrounded by loved ones. She was an incredibly visionary and advocate for healing on our planet. Everyone who had the privilege to meet her, either in person or through her words, felt her passion for serving others. Louise L. Hay says, "In the infinity of life, where I am, all is perfect, complete, and whole. In the infinity of life where I am, all is perfect, complete, and whole. So there we go. Just to remind everybody, we've had a technical issue. We cannot play further audio. We cannot play some more music we had for you. We cannot play the audio that we had lined up from you with Almin talking about this gift of duality. And we cannot play the Master Diane's audio and class on the perspectives of hope. But tomorrow for us here in the Southern Hemisphere, hooray, it's Spring Day, the 1st of September. And as the shift and the cycle yet begins from north to south, so our energy changes up and down. Let's hope by next week we've managed to sort out the technical issue here, and we will be back online next week in September. Have a good time. Love, praise, gratitude, and trust. Thank you for understanding. Good night.